Salams to all Atmajyotis, divine light of the self. I welcome all of you for today's session of Drak Drishya Viveka. We are starting a new series of talks on Drak Drishya Viveka. First, let us offer our respects to the Guru Parampara, Sri Shankaracharya, and then let us contemplate on the teachings of Drak Drishya Viveka. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smruti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. Today, we are starting a new series of talks on Drak Drishya Viveka. What is Drak Drishya Viveka? Drak is the discrimination between the seer and the seen. Drak Drishya means discrimination between the seer and seen. What is this discrimination? What is the seer and seen? The purpose of Vedantic teaching is to realize the oneness of Jivatma with Paramatma. When you realize the oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma, the so-called duality collapses. In every aspect of life, we experience duality. Subject-object duality. And where there is a duality, there is a stress. All our fears, all our anxiety, all our pain, all our suffering in life is because of the experience of duality. The Vedantic teaching tells us that duality is an appearance. Non-duality is the reality. This non-duality is called Advaita. Teaching this non-duality, there are several texts in Sanatana Dharma. There are three sets of granthas or texts in Sanatana Dharma which focus on teaching of Vedanta, non-duality. They are called Prasthana Trayam. Prasthana Trayam means three. Prasthana Trayam means method of revealing. Prasthana Trayam, three methods of revealing the Atman, three methods of revealing Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekatvam. There are three methods. So they are called Prasthana Traya. What are these Prasthana Traya? First is called Shruti. Shruti is a revelation. Sages, Rishis, in their deep meditation, received the highest, noblest spiritual truths in the form of Vedas, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharvana Veda. These revelations are called Shrutis. The literature or the knowledge of Vedas is enormous and vast. The four Vedas are considered sacred because they have come from Brahman of the Supreme Lord himself. Bhagavan himself has given. No human mind has conceived it. No human mind can compose it. No human mind can correct it. That's why Vedas are called Apaurusheya. Apaurusheya means non-human origin. What is the meaning of non-human origin? The Vedic teaching, Vedanta teaching, is received. Vedas are received from Sriman Narayana to Brahmaji and Brahmaji to Rishi. Sriman Narayana is the Parabrahma. Sadashiva to Brahmaji and Rishis. That's why we have two traditions representing Narayana Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Padyantam, Vande Guru Paramparam, Shruti Smriti. Then other tradition is Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Padyantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. Means there are two traditions by which this knowledge is received. Same Parabrahma is called Narayana and Sadashiva. We are not speaking of two different realities. One reality called Parabrahma is called with two names, two traditions. Parabrahma is beyond creation, beyond the manifest reality, beyond Maya. Sriman Narayana reveals the Vedas to Brahmaji. Brahmaji is the creation. Brahmaji is in creation. Brahmaji is in Maya. So Brahmaji receives the Maya knowledge from the Supreme Being, Paramatma. In that sense, the Vedas are non-human origin. No human mind has made the Vedas. Then it is passed on from master to disciple, master to disciple, master to disciple. Every disciple says, I received it, I heard it, Shruti. It's a revelation to me. Nobody will claim that I composed it, I composed Veda Mantras. Even one sutra of Veda, one shloka of Veda Mantra is not composed by anybody. That's why it's called Apaurusheya, non-human origin. Being Apaurusheya, Vedic knowledge embodies supreme wisdom, supreme truth. From Sriman Narayana, Sadashiva, it went on to Brahmaji. From Brahmaji, it went to Devatas, called Deva Parampara. From Devatas, it went to Rishis, Rishi Parampara. Then it was passed on to Acharyas, Acharya Parampara, Sri Shankaracharya and other Acharyas. So what are these Prasthanatraya? Prasthanatraya means the last part of the Vedas are called Upanishads. You can imagine the last chapter of any book. Last chapter of a book always has a summary. 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is a summary of 17 chapters. When you read last chapter, you'll get a summary. It's like a crime thriller, a detective novel. There are so many. This book is there. You don't know who is the criminal. So much of mystery, twists and turns are there. But if you go and read the last chapter, you know who is the criminal. The essence of Vedic teaching is there in the last chapter. It's called Vedanta. The Vedanta also means Veda Antarartha, inner meaning of Vedas. Vedanta means the last section of Vedas. The Vedantic knowledge is called Upanishad. Upa means, Sanskrit word Upa has given rise to English word called up. Upa has become up in English. Many Sanskrit words have gone into English. Dentistry has come from Danta Shastra. The cow has come from Gau. Like that, many words of Sanskrit have gone into English. Upa. Upa means upari. Nishad. It uplifts us. It uplifts us. Uplifts our consciousness. That's why it's called Upanishad. Nishad means uplifts. How does something uplifts us? If you understand what depresses us, we understand what uplifts also. Hey, there's a bad news. Again, lockdown. Depressed. So when we hear news which causes hurt, pain, we get depressed. What happens when you're depressed? Mind shrinks. When we hear news which is good and elevating, uplifting, we are inspired. The mind gets uplifted. The Upanishad has a wisdom which uplifts us. How does it uplift? Is there a greater wisdom which tells us Jivatma is one with Paramatma? Is there something beyond that? Supreme truth. Jivatma, individual soul, me, a small little tiny little being in the universe, is one with the Paramatma. So that is most uplifting. That's why it's Upanishad. The essence of Upanishad teaching we can call as Tattvamasi, that the word Jivatma is one with Paramatma. There's nothing more uplifting possible than understanding Ekatvam, oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma. So that becomes the what we call as the last section of Veda. It's called Vedanta. And that we call as Shruti Prasthanam or Upanishad Prasthanam or Vedanta Prasthanam. This is out of three Prasthanatraya, Vedanta Prasthanam or Shruti Prasthanam or Upanishad Prasthanam is one method of teaching. Okay. So Prasthana means three methods of teaching. Upanishad is one method of teaching. Then we have Smriti Prasthana, is called Bhagavad Gita. Smriti Prasthana is another method of teaching, a different way of teaching. What is the difference between Shruti Prasthana and Smriti Prasthana? Shruti are revelations. Revelations which sages, rishis have received it. So they are not adding anything to that. They are just passing it on. What is received is given. No corruption is done. That's one method of teaching. So every Rishi says, I received this from Bhagavan, I am passing it on. It's not mine. I'm not adding anything. I cannot delete anything. I cannot correct anything. I'm just passing it on. This is the message. That's called Shruti Prasthana. Then there is a Smriti Prasthana. This Shruti Prasthana is one way of teaching. Smriti Prasthana, Smriti is memory. Smriti Prasthana is the teaching is not original teaching. Whatever Shrutis are telling, whatever the original revelations are telling, Smriti puts it in a way we can understand it. Smriti uses the memory of a human being or a divine incarnation. Smriti is not an original revelation. That's why Bhagavad Gita is a Smriti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam. So Sri Krishna, in the form of Narayana, Sri Krishna, who is the incarnation of Narayana, told him. Sarvo Panishado Gavo Dogda Gopalanandana. What did he teach? He taught the essence of all Upanishads. Sarvo Panishado. Upanishad is Shrutis. Shrutis are the cows. Sri Krishna is anyway cowherd. It's his profession, milking the cow. Now he is milking another cow, which is called Veda. Vedas are in the form of Upanishads. He is milking that cow. And when the milk is, when you take the milk from the cow, when you milk the cow, always first share goes to the calf. Calf will take drink first, and then rest of the people will drink. So Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is the cowherd. Upanishads are cows, and the calf called Arjuna drinks it first. Then we all of us get milk. Now, what kind of this milk is? This is Amrita, the nectar. Why is nectar? Amrita means what makes you free from birth and death. Eternal life. That eternal life is called Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. Only when we understand Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekatvam, we'll get Amritatvam. There's no other way. So that's where Bhagavad Gita is Smriti Pramana. Bhagavad Gita is another way of teaching. What is there in the Upanishad? Sri Krishna Paramatma will take one by one and puts it together and gives it to us. Sri Krishna Paramatma didn't compose Bhagavad Gita. He himself told, as Narayana, he told to Brahmaji, but he in Mahabharata, Sri Krishna didn't make Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is taken from the Upanishad and told in a way we can understand. Bhagavad Gita is much simpler than Upanishad, original teachings. Bhagavad Gita gives Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Yajna, Tapas, Dana, how to make your life, how to live, all those things Sri Krishna Paramatma puts in a way that Vedic teaching of Shruti Prasthana can be understood by all of us. Sri Krishna is Jagat Guru. He is the teacher for the universe. Why? A universal teacher always gives a universal teaching. Teaching which is applicable to the whole of the world. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Kriya Yoga is the entire world applicable to any of the whole of the world. Everything in Bhagavad Gita is for the whole humanity. Then what is the role of Sri Krishna? Sri Krishna takes the message of Vedamata and gives that to us. What is the message of Vedamata? Tattvamasi, Jivatma is one with Paramatma. Sri Krishna Paramatma in Bhagavad Gita chapter 1 to 6, first 6 chapters, he tells Jiva, Tvam Padartha, who am I? Then 7 to 12 chapters, 7 to 12, it tells about Tat, means Ishvara. And 13 to 18, it tells of Asi, Jivatma, Paramatma, how they are one, Ekatvam. So in that way, Sri Krishna Paramatma takes the teaching of Tattvamasi from Vedanta, which is summary of Vedas, and gives in the form of Bhagavad Gita. What is the role of Sri Krishna here? It's not original teaching. It is a teaching which has been given Shivan Narayana. Sri Krishna himself is Narayana himself. But in Mahabharata, he takes that. He is here the teacher. Here, Sri Krishna Paramatma takes the role of a guru, teacher, Jagat Guru. What is the role of a guru? Role of a guru is not to create his own teaching, cook up his own teaching. Role of a guru is take the original revelation and make it understandable to society. That's the role of a guru. It is saying like a gravitation force. Gravitation force is there all the time. Okay. So after some time, another scientist comes and says he cannot discover anything new in the gravitational force. He has to only explain the gravitational force. That's why all scientific discoveries are called search. Again searching for the same thing what is there. Sri Krishna Paramatma takes the Vedantic teaching, Vedic teaching, and gives us to have a form where we can eat, we can digest. That's why Bhagavad Gita is Amrita. It is like the mother, when the child is young, the mother will take the food, then grinds it, makes it soft, and feeds the child. So the child can digest food. This is the role of a guru in our life. The guru takes the teaching of Vedamata. He does not cook his own food. He takes the teaching of Vedamata, grinds it, and gives it in digestible form to the disciples, students. He plays the role of a mother. Vedamata is the mother. The guru plays the role of the mother to take the teaching, make it understandable for all of us, and digest it. Sri Krishna Paramatma, as Jagat Guru, the universal teacher, takes the message of Vedas and gives it in a form understandable in 700 plus slokas. Step by step, he gives instruction. So that's why Vedas, Bhagavad Gita is much more popular. Everybody knows about Bhagavad Gita, but very few people know about Upanishads. Upanishads are direct revelations. They are told in the form of revelation. Whereas Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita is an organization of that information in a way we can digest. So that's why Bhagavad Gita is more popular. Bhagavad Gita is called Smriti Prasthana because Bhagavad Gita is from memory. Sri Krishna remembers what he has taught and teaching. So which is greater, Shruti or Smriti? When Shruti Prasthanam is there and Smriti Prasthana, human being comes into picture. If there is any mistake or any correction, always Shruti is right. Smriti requires a correction according to Shruti. So Bhagavad Gita is another method of teaching. And third method of teaching is called Brahma Sutra. It's called Nyaya Prasthana. Nyaya Prasthana means logical presentation of the teaching of Shruti Prasthana and Smriti Prasthana. A logical presentation. Because there can be so much of confusion between the one statement and other statement, one teaching and other teaching. So every teaching has to be logically connected and corrected. That is called Nyaya Prasthana. So Nyaya is also Smriti. Shruti Prasthana and Smriti Prasthana. So there are three ways of teaching. Right? The first way of teaching is what Sriman Narayana has told, directly communicate. That's called Upanishad. So there is no addition there. There's no illustration there. What comes, give, take it. That's called Shruti. Okay. That's called Bhagavad Gita is Smriti. What is coming from Bhagavan, put it in a way where we can understand. That's called Bhagavad Gita, Smriti Prasthana. And finally, Nyaya Prasthana, wherever there's a confusion with Shruti and Smriti, that confusion is logically, clearly taught. Logic is important here. So there are three ways of teaching. One truth called Tattvamasi. Only one truth. Three ways of teaching. These are called Prasthana Traya. Who is the author of this Drag Drashya Viveka is a Prakarana Grantha. A Prakarana Grantha means the teaching of Upanishad, teaching of Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra is mind-boggling. Quite a lot of teaching is there. It's huge. Then Sri Shankaracharya, as a guru, he takes all those teachings and makes it available in the form of smaller texts which we can digest. I told you the role of a guru is like a mother. Take the food, grind it and give it. Sri Shankaracharya takes the teaching of Shruti Pramana, Smriti Pramana, Brahma Sutra, Veda, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. He takes them and makes it into small digestible modules for us. That's called Prakarana Grantha. Drak Drashya Viveka is one such Prakarana Grantha, very small book of about 46 slokas, but very profound, very important. So let us understand this structure. I want to project the structure of Veda, our teaching. There are three ways of teaching Atmadnana. Entire teaching is about Atmadnana. And Brahmadnana and Atmadnana mean same thing because Atma is Brahman. Jivatma, Paramatma, Ekatvam. That's why it's called Prasthanatraya. Three ways of teaching. Three methods of teaching. First is Shruti Prasthana. Give the teaching, revelation directly. No correction involved. That's called Upanishad. Smriti Prasthana is what is received through Upanishad, made into a form where human beings, all of us can understand. This is the role of a teacher, Guru. Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna Paramatma as Jagat Guru gives the teaching of Bhagavad Gita to us. Then comes the Nyaya Prasthana, it's called Brahma Sutra, it's a logical explanation of all the teachings. Okay, so there are three methods of understanding. Now, Shankaracharya, Acharya. So here comes the role of an Acharya. What he does, he takes Brahma Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad and makes into further simple modules for us to understand. They are called Prakarana Granthas. Drak Drashya Viveka is Prakarana Grantha. Is a simplified version of Prasthanatraya. All that I can say. It's very difficult. Oh, how many Upanishads are there? 108 Upanishads are there. 10 major Upanishads are there. Bhagavad Gita has 760 slokas. Or Brahma Sutra has 555 sutras. My God, too big, too much. Shankaracharya says, don't worry. I'll make it simple for you. Don't get frightened by the amount of knowledge. I'll make it simple for you. They're called Prakarana Granthas. Shruti and Smriti are different. How? Shruti is heard. Okay? Nobody composed it. Everybody says, my master told me, I received it. My master, original Rishi says, I received from Parabrahma Narayana himself directly. There is no authorship. There is no human author for Shruti. They are called Upanishads. Smriti means remembered. Somebody studies in Gurukula, he remembers it, then he presents it in his own way. The presentation is done by the person who did. Now, when you do presentation, okay, there can be human mind coming into picture. There can be problem and error and correction can happen. Shruti, there is no correction possible. Shruti is eternal. It cannot change. Like gravitation law of gravitation, it will not change. 10,000 years, 20,000 years, it's a natural. Shruti is perpetual, eternal. It's a fundamental truth. Whereas Smriti is temporary. Why it's temporary? The master can teach according to the needs of the society. When the society needs in some way, you have to teach it. For example, when you have to teach to the farmers, the teaching has to be put in the farming language. When you are teaching the scientists, the teaching has to be converted into scientific language. When you are teaching the shepherds, you have to teach the shepherd's language. So that's where Smriti is temporary. Shruti is permanent. Shruti is unchanging. It cannot change. The law of gravitation, fundamental force of nature will not change. Smriti can be modified. Depending on the society, depending on the time, you can give a correction. This is right into understanding. Because the understanding at one point of time may change with respect to society. Shruti is coming from Parabrahma himself, divine. It's non-human origin. Smriti can be in the form of divine dialogue. Krishna can tell Arjuna, a master can tell disciples. Shruti has authorless. There are no authors for Shruti. Nobody says, I wrote this Shruti, I gave this teaching. See, in today's world, for everything, there's a name and brand has to be put. In a small thing, I only made it, ownership. The authorship is there. Book is written by me. Or some 50-page book, my name is to be there, author. Whereas vast knowledge of Vedas, there's nobody who says I am the author. Profound knowledge, somebody says I am not, there's no author. I am not the author. I am only received it. No patenting, no authorship, no ownership. That is called Shruti. Smriti is author. Shri Krishna says, I am telling you, Arjuna, listen. Shruname, listen to me. Shruti says, Smriti is there's an authorship. Either a divine avatar or divine origination or a master can give Shruti, Smriti. Shruti is a direct experience of Rishis. What is the meaning of direct experience? Aparoksha Jnana. There's no mind involved in that. The mind is beyond mind. When the mind is silent, the deepest, the profound knowledge is revealed. That's called direct experience. Smriti is edited. Right? Smriti is edited. Whatever Shruti says, you add some slokas here, there, meaning here, so that it makes more understandable to picture. It's edited. Shruti is a divine inspiration. Smriti is for human consumption, for human being to understand. Shruti does not change, it's static. Smriti can change, dynamic, based on the situation. So, Prasthanatraya, 3 methods of revealing Atma, 3 methods of revealing Tattvamasi, Shruti Prasthana, Smriti Prasthana, Nyaya Prasthana, becomes Prakarana Grantha in the hands of Acharya. Make it more simplified. Bhagavad Gita, Smriti Prasthana is a simplification of Shruti Prasthana. Nyaya Prasthana is a clarity on Shruti and Smriti. Prakarana Grantha is further simplification and further clarification about Shruti, Smriti and Nyaya Prasthana. So now, what does Vedic knowledge contain? What is Veda? Oh, Vedic knowledge is very vast. Upanishad knowledge is very vast. Entire Vedic knowledge, Upanishad knowledge, can be summarized in 3 words. Tattvamasi, you are that. So, understanding Tattvamasi, 6 aspects of that has to be understood. 6 points have to be understood. Jiva, who is I am? Jiva, individual soul. About me, I have to understand. Second thing understood is Jagat, the world. The third thing should be understood is Ishvara, Bhagavan, God. Fourth thing should be understood is bondage. Why I am in bondage? Why I am suffering in life? Why I am samsari? Fifth thing should be understood is moksha, liberation. What is moksha? And sixth, what is sadhana, spiritual practice I have to do? These are 6 things are there in Upanishad. The Upanishads contain only 6 aspects in different ways. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, Bandha, Moksha and Sadhana, spiritual practice. Individual soul, world, Lord, bondage, liberation and spiritual practice. This Prasthanatraya. So this is actually Prasthanatraya is this information, distilled information. The Prasthanatraya is simplified in the form of Prakarana Grantha. Lot of knowledge is there. So the Prakarana Granthas are 2 types, level 1 and level 2, for a basic seeker and advanced seeker. Level 1, level 2. In level 1, you have to give the overview, complete overview. In level 2, you have to go to specialization. Level 1, overview, bigger picture. Level 2, specialization. This is what we do in any studies, right? First, you study overview, bigger picture you get. When I study in high school, I study history, mathematics, physics, chemistry, science, English, and Sanskrit. I was wondering why you have to study so many things. At a basic level, you have to get a bigger picture. Then you can specialize in science. But for a person specializing in science, history knowledge is required. That's why you study an overview before you go to a specialization. Somebody who does a PhD, he will study only a small section. But by that time, he has already started with a broader understanding. Then he has gone deeper and deeper and narrow. So this is Prakarana Granthas are level 1 and level 2. Basic and advanced, I will call it as. In level 1 Prakarana Grantha, there's an elaborate focus, a breadth. What is breadth? All 6 subjects are covered. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, Bandha, Moksha, Sadhana. All these are covered in level 1 Prakarana Grantha. Already you have studied level 1 Prakarana Grantha, Viveka Chudamani, Tattva Bodha. These are all level 1 Prakarana Granthas, where breadth is given. Sarva Vedanta Sara, these are some of the breadth. You are given a bigger picture. All 6 aspects are covered. It covers all from 1 to 6. Then there is level 2. Now you are ready for specialization. I want to go to only one specific aspect, more deeper. So Drak Drashya Viveka is level 2 Prakarana Grantha. Now you are focused, more focus is there. What is the focus? Out of 6 subjects, Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, Bandha, Moksha, Sadhana. Level 2, Drak Drashya Viveka only focus on Jiva. Ishvara we are not bothered right now. Jagat is not bothered. We are not bothered with Jagat. We are understanding what is Jiva, which is myself, what is Bandha, what is Moksha. Only 3 subjects. And Sadhana. The focus is narrowed down. Jiva. So then there's other text like Vakya Vritti, where 4 Mahavakyas are there. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Ayamatma Brahma, Pragnanam Brahma. These Mahavakyas, a detailed analysis of Mahavakya is done for us to understand the real meaning. So there is a focus on sadhana. There are no Jiva, no Ishvara, no Jagat, Moksha. All those things are not focused. Only sadhana, spiritual practice. So Drak Drashya Viveka comes to the level 2, where Jiva, Bandha, Moksha, and sadhana is covered. So what is this? What is the value of this? What is the value of Drak Drashya Viveka? Any Vedantic teaching is Jnana. Jnana has 3 stages: Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasa. Shravana means listening to the teachings of Shruti, Upanishads, of Veda Mata. So when or Bhagavad Gita, Shruti, Smriti, or Nyaya Prasthana, or Prakarana Grantha. Basically, what Veda Mata is telling, we are trying to understand through Prakarana Granthas, Bhagavad Gita, or Upanishads. So there's a Shravana Granthas are there. Viveka Chudamani, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, they are all Shravana Granthas. It's like planting a seed. Our mind is full of noise. So we have to put a fresh thought, Tattvamasi, that is being put there, Shravana. Then comes the Manana. Weeds have to be removed. Wrong thoughts, wrong understanding has to be corrected. That Manana process involves a discussion with like-minded people, Satsanga. Or various other philosophical thoughts can confuse us. So scientific science or Dvaita philosophy or the different other philosophies can confuse us to remove the weeds. Wrong thoughts have to be removed. That's called Manana. That can happen in discussion, that can happen in study of scriptures. There are Manana Granthas. Advaita Makaranda is a Manana Grantha, which we are doing study tomorrow. Brahma Sutra is a Manana Grantha. So this is where your plant is protected. Jnana, Atma Jnana is protected. Tattvamasi protected. And Nididhyasa is meditation. Drak Drashya Viveka comes under the Grantha of Nididhyasa Grantha. How to do meditation, Vedantic meditation. So the meditation, there are so many buzzwords today. This meditation, that meditation. The Vedantic meditation is very special type of meditation. Nididhyasa. But Vedantic meditation, Nididhyasa requires Shravana, Manana, and Nidhyasa. Third stage. Drak Drashya Viveka is a Prakarana Grantha helping us. Nididhyasa is now you go deeper. Try to remove your vasanas, impressions, by inward focus. So this is the process of Shravana, Manana, Nidhyasa. The Vedantic teaching is not to make your mind blank. It is not to make thoughtless mind. The thought that I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, Purnoham, Muktoham, I am free, I am liberated. This thought has to be strengthened. This is called Brahmakara Vritti. So this is the process of Vedanta. Our Grantha today, the text today, what we call as Drak Drashya Viveka, falls under this category, Nididhyasa. Now, who is the author of Prakarana Grantha called Drak Drashya Viveka? Who is the author of Upanishad? There is no author for Upanishads. It is authorless. Parabrahma himself has told, Parabrahma is not a person. So that's why all Upanishads and Vedas are authorless. There is no author in that sense. It is non-human origin called Apaursheya. Who is the author of Bhagavad Gita? Not Sri Krishna Paramatma. Sri Krishna is the spokesman. He spoke. The author of Bhagavad Gita is Vedavyasa Maharshi. Vedavyasa Maharshi recorded Bhagavad Gita in Mahabharata. That's why author of Bhagavad Gita is Vedavyasa Maharshi, not Sri Krishna Paramatma. Vyasena Graditam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam. Bhagavad Gita is author is Vyasa Maharshi, not Sri Krishna Paramatma. Sri Krishna Paramatma only spoke. Somebody has to record it. One who records is the author. Vedavyasa Maharshi is the author of Bhagavad Gita. Who is the author of Brahma Sutra? Vedavyasa Maharshi is the author of Brahma Sutra. So we have to respect the contribution of Vedavyasa Maharshi. He took the Vedas and divided the Vedas in a way people can understand, preserved the Vedas and Upanishads. Shruti Pramana he preserved in the form of teaching, and he authored, he recorded Smriti, Bhagavad Gita Smriti and Brahma Sutra to understand Shruti and Smriti in the form of Brahma Sutra. Then we come to Acharya Shankara. What he did, he took all the Shruti and Smriti and Brahma Sutra and wrote some Prakarana Granthas where we can understand. The text which we are studying today is called Viveka, Drak Drashya Viveka. What is Viveka? Viveka means discrimination. What is discrimination? Do you want a cup of coffee? Yes. I want to espresso coffee. I don't want mocha coffee. I don't want cappuccino. I want express coffee. So ability to choose between multiple things is called discrimination. The choice requires intellect, buddhi, intelligence is required to make a choice. That ability of the intellect to make a decision is called discrimination. We need an intellect with the ability of discrimination to function in life. Without discrimination, we cannot function. Is this good for me? Okay, can I eat food here? Is the food healthy? Should I drink this? All our decisions are made. The decision is made by intellect based on the discrimination. What is right? What is wrong? What is dharma? What is adharma? The ability of discrimination helps us to live our life, lead our life. All of us have a good amount of discrimination as we operate in the world. To function in the world, we need discrimination. Should I go now or should I go later? Should I carry an umbrella or not? Discrimination is there for us. But in certain area, we start failing. Our discrimination starts failing. Our discrimination will not become, we don't have clarity of discrimination. What is right? So that's where especially it starts problem, starts with dharma, adharma. What is dharma and what is adharma? What is right, what is wrong? We don't know. Because dharma and adharma, what is dharma, what is adharma is very subtle. To buy a mobile phone, this brand of mobile phone, that brand of mobile phone is easy. Gross discrimination. Whereas what is dharma and adharma is very subtle. Not easy to grasp. What should I do in my life? What karma should I follow in my life? It's a subtle discrimination. For that, very sharp intellect is required. The intellect sharp means, oh, somebody should be a PhD, somebody should be Nobel Prize, or somebody should be a master in some subject. No, that intellect is only still in the grosser world. The intellect which is sharpened to the contemplation, Shravana, Manana, Nidhyas of Vedantic teaching is required. Intellect has to be fine-tuned to understand subtle truths. Look at Arjuna. Arjuna comes to the war field. Arjuna is a warrior, Kshatriya. He has studied Gurukula. Yes, he is very knowledgeable of Vedas. He is very knowledgeable of Upanishads. He is very knowledgeable of Dharma and Adharma. He has been trained towards Dharma and Adharma by his masters, gurus. He is well educated. But when it comes to the war field, he is confused about what is Dharma and Adharma. That's where Bhagavad Gita starts. Even a sharp mind, Arjuna was not an ordinary person, he has a sharp mind. Well educated in Gurukula, even he starts getting confused with his Dharma and Adharma. We start confusing Dharma and Adharma when we have attachment. Arjuna comes to the war field and he sees Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, all are relatives and masters and gurus. Now he doesn't know what to do. He fought with many kings and many people, killed them in the war field. But when it comes to his relatives, he is not able to exercise his discrimination. Viveka, Dharma, Adharma, Viveka has failed. Completely failed. And he is completely confused. When Dharma, Adharma, Viveka fails, you are completely confused in life. What is right? What is wrong? Then you cannot take a meaningful action in life. You are stuck. That's why Sri Krishna gives Dharma, Adharma, Viveka in Bhagavad Gita. To Arjuna, what is Dharma and what is Adharma makes it clear. But before that, he gives him what is Atma, Anatma, Viveka. What is self and non-self? Based on the Upanishad teaching. In Sankhya Yoga, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, what is Atma, what is Anatma? What is self and non-self? Gives the Adhyatmic knowledge first. Then gives Dharmic knowledge first. Then gives Laukik knowledge, worldly knowledge. Our knowledge has to be complete and total and integrated. Otherwise, there will be confusion. Sri Krishna says, Tattvamasi, you are that, you are Atma. Atma is birthless and deathless. It cannot be cut by weapons. First he gives Adhyatmic knowledge. Then he comes to Dharmic knowledge. How to apply that Adhyatma in worldly life. How to follow my Dharma. No, I have Atma, I am Atma, I don't have to do anything. I can sit idle. No. Dharma is the way of interaction in the world. Then Laukika, how to deal, how to behave, interact with the world. These three knowledges covered by Shri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, which is Smriti Prasthana. So Viveka Chudamani is Drak, Drashya Viveka. What is Drak, Drashya Viveka? Drak means seer, Drashya means seen. the discrimination between the seer and seen. Why do you need a discrimination between the seer and seen? Many times we get confused between seer and seen. That example way is there. I am sitting in a train. Suddenly, my train seems to be moving. Oh, I sit tight because my train starts moving. No, my train is not moving. Next train is moving. The scene is moving. But my train appears to be moving. I'm confused now. What is moving? The movement of the other train, I'm superimposing my train. Then I'm getting ready. Oh, no. Somebody says, no, don't get up. There's other trains moving. It's another half an hour is there before our train starts. So their superimposition is happening. What is seen is being superimposed on the seer. In the case train. Same thing happens when you are sitting in a boat. The boat is moving. The movement in the boat is silent in the lake. But your trees appear to be running. Trees appear to be moving fast. Trees are not moving. Your boat is moving. Your movement of the boat is superimposed on the trees. So our mind superimposes one thing on another thing. Now, what is the problem of superimposition? When the problem of superimposition is, it causes a lot of suffering in our life. We suffer because of the confusion created by mind, superimposition created by the mind. What is the superimposition? Whenever I say I am referring to the consciousness Atma, the self. When I say I am, I is consciousness, I am is existence. On this consciousness and existence which is unchanging, I superimpose the body. I am an old man now. I am suffering. I am an old man now. Then you are superimposing the body on Atma, which is unchanging. I am is unchanging. I am is unchanging reality. The confusion is created already. You start thinking that I am body. Body is superimposed on the Atma. Atma is not birthless. Atma is birthless, deathless. Atma is eternal. Atma is infinite. Body is finite. A finite body is superimposed on Atma. Then we start feeling, oh, I am very limited. I am suffering. When you say I am suffering, the mind is superimposed on Atma. Happiness and unhappiness belong to the mind. I am can never suffer. I am the knowing principle. I am the consciousness. Consciousness can never suffer. This consciousness is of nature of Ananda. Ananda means infinity. The suffering is superimposed on the infinite, blissful self. Then, oh, I don't know the subject. I have ignorance of English. I have ignorance of physics. I have ignorance of Atmadnana. So, knowledge and ignorance are belonging to intellect. The ignorance is superimposed on Atma, where Atma is of the nature of Gnana Swarupa. There is no ignorance and knowledge both in Atma. Atma is the light which illuminates ignorance and knowledge. So in this way, three types of superimposition takes on Atma. What are the three types? Kartaham. I am the body. Whenever I use the word, I am going, I am coming, I am eating, I use the word body. And body is superimposed on I am. What is the problem of superimposition of body? Body is limited, I am is infinite. Finite gets imposed, superimposed on infinite. Infinite appears to be finite. Then I become the doer, karta, because the body is the doer. I say, I am doing, I have karma. What kind of bad karma is this? I am suffering 7.5 Shani, 7.5 years of Shani Kata. My dear, Atma cannot suffer. Oh, it's a bad karma. I'm suffering. Okay. So nothing in the world can affect Atma. but you feel as if you are getting affected by everything in the world. A small mosquito bite also will disturb you. Forget about big problems in life. Then you become a doer, karta. The moment you say doer, oh, karma phala is coming. I am suffering because of karma phala. Kartaham, and I am limited. And body has its own cycle. Body is born, body grows up, body becomes old, and body dies. Oh, now you say, start feeling, oh, I have a strong muscle, I have a weak body, I am becoming old. That nothing has happened to I am. We don't remember, we don't understand. Look at your own life. Anything in your life. I was born, I grew up, I got married, I am living in, went to Bombay, I went to America, I am here in Bangalore. The I am has never changed. Your body has changed from birth to middle age. The I am unchanging is we are superimposing the changing body. That's cause of suffering. It's like next train is moving, I feel my train is moving. Then Atma is of the nature of Ananda, infinity. Happiness and unhappiness of the mind, I am superimposing. I constantly crave for happiness. I want happiness. I want happiness. By drinking this, by eating that food, by having a fun with my friends, by going to a movie, I want happiness. When you don't understand that happiness and unhappiness is superimposed on Atma. Atma is of the nature of Ananda, infinite. Infinite has no concept of happiness and unhappiness. Infinite is beyond happiness and unhappiness. Then I am always curious. I want a housemaid. In these days of Corona, you want a housemaid? Yes, otherwise, how do I know the news of the other day? The housemaid is a news messenger. We are curious to know what's happening somewhere. Through TV, through newspaper, through gossip. Because somewhere we want to get ignorance, get rid of ignorance. Atma is of this Swarupa, Gnana Swarupa, is the light which gives illuminates the knowledge and ignorance. I've forgotten that I am the Atma. So this superimposition cause is called Kartaham, Bhoktaham, Gnataham. On Aham, the real I am, is superimposed. Drakdrashi Viveka teaches the Viveka discrimination to separate the superimposition. And Drakdrashi Viveka takes one different approach compared to Viveka Chudamani and Tattva Bodha. Viveka Chudamani gives Atma, Anatma Viveka. Gross body, subtle body, causal body. 3 types of bodies are there. You understand you are separate, you are not the body. Or Pancha Kosha Viveka, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. There are 5 koshas are there. You understand Atma is separate from that. Kosha based knowledge, or it gives 3 bodies. Jagrata, gross body, subtle body, causal body. Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira. This is the knowledge, this is the Viveka taught in Viveka Chudamani. This is the knowledge which is taught in Tattva Bodha. Drakdrashi Viveka takes another different approach. Viveka, discrimination. The seer and seen discrimination has to be done. What is seen? What is seer? When I say seer, not just eyes are the seer. Any sense organ is the seer. Seer is the word used. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch. Any 5 sense organs, we take it as a seer. Anything which you experience through these 5 sense organs is called seen. I can use another word, subject and object. Discrimination between the subject and object. What is subject? What is object? Clear discrimination. Subject, object discrimination. Seer, seen discrimination. Observer, observed discrimination. Experiencer, experience discrimination is what is being taught in Drakdrashi Viveka. It's a different type of discrimination compared to Viveka Chudamani and Tattva Veda. In Viveka Chudamani and Tattva Veda, we are giving Pancha Kosha based discrimination and 3 Sharira. Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira based on discrimination. Here it's given based on the Drakdrashi, seer seen discrimination. Why discrimination is important? Because our body, mind, and intellect are inert, anatma. They are jada. A mud pot is seen. It's an object. I know mud pot is there, but mud pot does not know I am there. I am conscious, mud pot is inert. And I know very well the mud pot cannot see, mud pot cannot talk, mud pot has no feeling. All those things I know because he's inert. But what I don't know is that my body is also a mud pot. Body is also inert. My mind is also a mud pot. Mind is also inert. My intellect is also a mud pot. It's inert. Body, mind, and intellect is inert. It's anatma. I don't know. The anatma, body, mind, intellect is getting illuminated and powered by the presence of the atma. I don't know this. I think body is alive. Body is conscious. The consciousness of atma is superimposed on the body. And body's limited nature, limited body, limited mind, limitation of body and mind is superimposed on atma. So, anyonya adhyasa, we are doing mutual superimposition. And when there is a superimposition, there is a confusion. If anything happens to the body, oh, I am suffering. If somebody shouts at you and you feel hurt, oh, I am hurt. I am can never be hurt. Atma can never be hurt. I am depressed. I am can never be depressed. So this superimposition is causing problem. Oh, I don't know this. Ignorance. Atma can have never ignorance because it's the nature of light, awareness. So the superimposition causes confusion. And confusion causes error. What is the error? What is the meaning of error? The error can happen when I have no knowledge of a subject. I can make an error. I go to Germany. I don't know Germany. So I speak something and the people start laughing because my language, my knowledge of German is poor. I make an error because I don't have knowledge. Sometimes I make an error when I have a knowledge. For example, I am typing a document. I can make a spelling mistake. Knowledge is there, but error is there. Then sometimes the knowledge is there, but error can happen because my instrument of knowledge is failing. My sense organs, I have a color blindness. I can't see any color in the world. So sense organs can fail me. And whenever there is an error, there's always a suffering and trouble. So if you are suffering in life, there's an error. And error is there because there's a superimposition, adhyasa. Confusion between Atma and Anatma. We have to try to remove this confusion and become free. That's where discrimination has to be developed. So is there a way of doing it some other way? Can I get, how do I remove this suffering? How do I remove this adhyasa? Can I remove the body? Can I remove the mind? Somehow please remove my suffering from the mind. Somehow please remove ignorance from the mind. How it's possible? Ignorance can be removed only through jnana, knowledge. There's no magical way of removing ignorance. So if you have physics ignorance, physics jnana has to be given. If you have chemistry ignorance, chemistry jnana has to be given. If you have biology ignorance, biology jnana has to be given. If you have ignorance of Atma, Atma jnana has to be given. Jnana is the only way where you can get rid of ignorance and adhyasa, superimposition, clarity. So Jiva, because of superimposition, he says kartaham, bhoktaham, jnataham. It becomes a complex entity, mixture of body, mind, and intellect. And he becomes a samsari. Samsari means one who is suffering in life. The seer is chit or consciousness. Seen is achit or matter. So the confusion of matter and consciousness is after coming into life. Consciousness and matter. This is a big confusion. Scientists think that consciousness is not there, or consciousness, they don't care. They think only matter is real. All psychiatric patients are treated with mental problem. Mind is matter actually. We are not understanding the consciousness is the real source. All our diagnosis and treatment are wrong places. Wrong problems are being solved. And wrong way problems are being solved. What is wrong way? My problem is Atmadnana, lack of Atmadnana. Atmadnana can be got only through Dnana. So now what are the means of getting Dnana? There are only three ways. The means of getting Dnana. Pratyaksha Dnana means through sense organs I can get Dnana. For example, if this glass is there, I can see and get Dnana. This is called Pratyaksha. Then there's Anumana, inference. What type of inference? Oh, there's a smoke there. There must be fire there. Inference is Dnana. It's mental, mind. Through sense organs or the mind. There is a third kind of Dnana, which is not available to sense organs and the mind. It is called Atmadnana. Because Atma, the self, has no form. It is formless. Name, form cannot apply to Atma. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. Touch, sound, smell, taste and form. They are not there for Atma. Your mental inference or pratyaksha or anumana only can work in the domain of these five elements. Panchabhutas. Sound, touch, smell, taste and form. When they are not there, your all our method of inference or perception fails. Then what we have to rely? We have to rely on Shabda Pramana, teaching of something which is beyond the mind. That beyond the mind is called Vedas. Vedamata teaches us, my dear child, you cannot understand through sense organs and the mind. I'll teach you now what is beyond sense organs and mind. This is called Shabda Pramana. Atmadnana comes from Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana is called Aptavakya. That knowledge gives liberation. Atmadnana has to be clarity which comes through Vedamata's teaching, Tattvamasi teaching. Teaching given by a qualified guru only can bring Dnana. That's called Atmadnana. There's no magical way. I have physics Adnana. I learn physics by reading chemistry book. It doesn't work. Atmadnana has to be got through Shabda Pramana. So any knowledge is through means of knowledge, either Pratyaksha, Anumana or Shabda Pramana. I'll give you an example of Shabda Pramana. The father has gone to foreign country. The mother has given birth to a child. Child has not seen the father. 2 years are over. Father comes back from foreign country and mother says, my dear child, this is your father. Now the child has no proof who is the father because child can never understand who is father. Child accepts the mother words of the mother. Oh, this is my father. Similarly, the mother's words are called Aptavakya, trusted words. For something beyond the mind, we need trusted words, trusted teaching. That's called Shabda Pramana. The Vedamata is trusted word. The word which comes from the Guru's mouth is trusted word. The trusted word gives us the confidence, I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. It is not a blind belief. Vedamata and Guru will give you systematic teaching to understand I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi is true. So Atmadnana is a clarity which is born out of listening to the Vedantic teaching and the teaching of a master. And what kind of a master? Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam, one who is well versed in scriptures, well versed in teaching of the scriptures, well versed in methodology teaching, and who is Brahmanishta himself, who is established in truth. So this is the process of Vedanta Jnana. Now, what is the effect of this? Effect of this is given in the form of rope and snake analogy. Somebody sees a snake, he is afraid, his heart beats, he starts palpitating. He has experience of fear, tremendous fear. But then when in examination, he finds that it's not a snake, it is rope there. The snake has not become rope. There was no snake. Snake was imaginary. The snake, imaginary snake was superimposed on the rope. But the imaginary snake superimposed on the rope caused tremendous fear, tremendous anxiety. The knowledge that it's not a snake, but a rope, relieves him, frees. Now he starts laughing. Oh, it was a rope. Similarly, there is a superimposition taking place. Body, mind, and intellect, which is anatma, is being superimposed on atma. That causes a lot of stress and fear in our life, Dvaita, duality. Atma Dnana is there to remove this duality and make us free to understand Atma is supreme reality, Paramatma. With that, we'll conclude today's session. Let's do the prayer. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti 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 Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamuduchyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Nanu Nanembudu Nanalla Ideha Manabuddhi Nanalla Sachidanandatma Shivanamnani Shivoham Shivoham Shivoham. I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I'm not the intellect, I'm pure consciousness, Shivasrupi. Atmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Brahmadarshanam, Satyadarshanam. To know the self is to know God. To know God is to be God. To be God is to know the truth. Lokaha samastaha Sukino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha Sukino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha Sukino bhavantu. Antarjyotihi Bahirjyotihi Pratyak Jyotihi Paratpara Jyotireva Jyotihi Swayam Jyotihi Atma Jyotihi Shivosmiham. I am the light of the self awareness, Atma Jyoti. I am the light illuminating the world, external light. I am the light illuminating the mind, inner light. I am light beyond all lights, supreme light, Paranjyoti, light of love, light of peace, light of wisdom.